Hi guys, it's Wednesday and Jessica here talking about life force number 3, oxygen, or oxygenation is where we're going to start, but there's a few other things I want to talk about today and also talk about life force number 4, alkalinization. It's very important to understand a little bit more about these two and how they work together, and we're also going to talk about the importance of superfoods, antioxidants, and the myth about protein, and also why healthy fats are actually really important. So let's get started. I'm sitting in my car today. I'm just now getting a chance to do the video while my daughter is in gymnastics, so I will try to keep this short and sweet. For as much as we're going to cover, it's going to be about the same timing as everything else, and I'll just try not to go over. Okay, so oxygenation. We'll talk about how important oxygen is for living. Obviously, we all know we need oxygen every day, right? We can go, months or, at least weeks, but even sometimes months without food or water and still survive, albeit, not very well. But, you can't go very long without oxygen before your brain suffers damage. So that's how important oxygen is to our bodies, right? So it's just like we talked about how water was really important for, transporting stuff through the body. It cannot do it without oxygen. That's the bottom line. So I'm not going to read too much on that just to save some time. But if you read Super Life, you will see in even greater detail that without oxygen, like water and the nutrients that you eat in the food, all that stuff can't do its job without oxygen. So it goes hand in hand with improved nutrition and your water that you take into your body for it to do the things it needs to do to keep your body healthy. So it's actually, since oxygen ignites our cells, we need plenty of it. And there's a lot of ways that things that we do, like unhealthy habits or behaviors, inhibits the amount of oxygen we have. So back in 1931, there was a doctor that won the Nobel Prize in medicine for his discovery of the link between oxygen and cancer. It's worth hearing him explain it. He says, cancer, above all other diseases, has countless secondary causes. But even for cancer, there is only one prime cause. Summarized in a few words, the prime cause of cancer is the replacement of the respiration of oxygen in normal body cells by a fermentation of sugar. Cancer cells don't use oxygen for energy, depending on glucose instead. So think about that for just a second. Cancer cells that become cancerous for whatever reason, thrive off glucose, off sugar, and oxygen is something that they can't thrive off of. He studied the metabolism of tumors and the respiration of cells, and the connection he saw between low oxygen and cancer, or if you look at it the other way, it's the link between oxygen-rich tissues and good health. He was honored for that breakthrough way back in 1931, but today cancer is still our number 2 killer in the world. Just knowing about the link with oxygen deficiency hasn't been enough to prevent it. So some things obviously are beyond our control. It doesn't mean that if you get enough oxygen, take deep breaths, do hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy, it doesn't mean that you'll prevent cancer necessarily. It just means you basically make your body inhabitable for cancer and other diseases. And that is what I want, the main motivation for you eating healthier, for drinking more water, for looking at food as nutrition versus, just a diet. I want you to basically make your goal to make your body inhabitable for awful diseases that make your quality of life go down. They may end your life sooner than needs to be. That's really what it boils down to. I want this week to help you see the why behind why we need to eat healthy, why we need to drink more water, why we need to exercise, which exercise I'm going to get into a little bit more talking about oxygen, because if you work out, you raise your heart rate, you work your lungs because you're breathing more oxygen in and out, in and out, in and out. So you're actually giving your lungs that workout and breathing deeper and inhaling more oxygen, making your lungs work. And there's also a lot of links between being out in the environment. Obviously you can take in more oxygen if you're out in your environment, but as pollution has gotten worse and worse over the years, there's actually less oxygen available. That doesn't mean that we're short on oxygen or anything like that. It just means that there's less available. So it's important for you, for your daily life to include some outside time. And not only is it important for your oxygen levels, but a lot of your health comes from your gut. And the best way to improve your gut health is eat food that's local to you, and also breathe breathing the nature around you. So breathing the oxygen that is in your environment that you're in all the time, eating foods that come from your region, all that stuff, it actually improves your gut health. So it'll help you prevent leaky gut syndrome. It'll help your, digestion and just your immune system. So there's a reason why getting outside is always suggested as something to do healthier too. So we'll dive into a little bit more of that as well. So some of the things are beyond our control, obviously, but if we do all we can to keep ourselves oxygen rich and alkaline, those two life forces will combine to make our bodies more inhabitable or inhospitable, as he says it, to disease. All chronic pain, suffering, and diseases are caused from lack of oxygen at the cell level. It says all. All chronic pain, suffering, and diseases are caused from lack of oxygen at the cell level. Now, the reason for lack of oxygen at the cell level can be different for different people. But just keeping that in mind for your own personal goal for how you live your daily life, take that into account. So I don't know how many people have done hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy. It's not something like everybody needs to do every day, but they do recommend it for people who have had some sort of injury, especially brain injuries and stuff, or if you suffer from super chronic sleep deprivation, it causes brain damage. And there's other things it basically helps regenerate the cells quicker. So if there's been some sort of major injury or chronic issue, it might not be a bad idea to kind of check into that. I'm pretty sure it's expensive if it's not covered by your insurance for some reason, but it's worth looking into. So oxygen provides a perfect example of how interrelated the 5 life forces are. If our detox systems don't clear away toxins and carcinogens, they build up around and inside our cells, actually choking them. When that happens, cellular respiration is reduced. The flow of oxygen in and out is impaired. Another factor that lowers oxygenation of cells is poor blood circulation. And what causes that? Chiefly improper diet. When we eat processed foods, unhealthy fats, too much sugar, etc., our red blood cells clump together and don't flow as they should. Meanwhile, we may not be consuming enough of the essential fatty acids contained in foods like walnuts, chia, and flaxseed, algae, salmon, krill, and sardines to maintain healthy cell walls. That's another case of poor oxygen exchange. So it's really hard to get the things you need from processed foods. It's just not there. So that's the reason why healthy foods, like whole foods and less processed foods are recommended, because that's where the stuff that you need to get into your body for your body to do its job, that's where you're going to get them from. That's the reason we need to eat healthy. When we eat properly, our food can provide oxygen as well. When we drink plenty of water, it allows for greater oxygen exchange. So again, oxygen and hydration go hand in hand. So we're going to talk a little bit more about alkalinity too. I know I touched on that the other day. On the other hand, a lousy diet, too much protein, processed foods, too little water, excessive acidity, stress, and toxicity all add up to creating oxygen poor cells and eventually an overwhelmed immune system. So it all works together, people. In our bodies, oxygen has the power not only to create but also to destroy. We metabolize our food by mixing the nutrients with oxygen, helping to break it down, but the combination creates free radicals, atoms and molecules with odd numbers of electrons, which damage everything in their path. In an attempt to stabilize themselves, they basically try to rob electrons from, other cells that they touch. Or atoms that they touch. So every atom they crash into, they try to steal an electron from it to try to stabilize itself, because there's supposed to be an even number versus odd number of molecules. But when free radicals exist, they are associated with cancer and aging, among other bad things that can occur in your body. So oxygen can be a double-edged sword. if there's too much oxygen. But we can combat this in a number of ways, mainly by consuming antioxidants, which neutralize free radicals and render them harmless. So this is the reason why, again, I want you to understand the why behind all of this. Antioxidants are good for you to ingest and are recommended to eat antioxidant-rich foods because they neutralize free radicals, which is another way to help prevent cancer and accelerated aging. Free radicals are a natural part of the turnover of life at a cellular level. As long as we eat fresh whole food, we don't have to worry about the oxidative process. So again, if you're eating mostly processed foods, chances are that you have more free radicals to battle. The biggest concern is that low-level oxygen deprivation can go unnoticed and, over time, cause chronic degeneration of the body and its various systems. As a study conducted at the University of Leeds in England concludes, there is a clear link between low oxygen levels in the brain and Alzheimer's disease as well. Oxygen-poor cells lose some of their messaging capacity. So basically, it damages your brain cells. So another way to battle something that is devastating for families, and hopefully not your family. The symptoms of low cellular oxygenation include fatigue, circulation problems, poor digestion, muscle aches and pain, dizziness, depression, memory loss, irrational behavior, irritability, acidic stomach, bronchial problems, and overall immune problems. That covers a lot, doesn't it? These sound like the kind of normal complaints that a lot of supposedly healthy people have. Think maybe we'd feel healthier if we managed to get more oxygen into our tissues. That is the goal. Improper breathing is associated with a long list of ailments as well. Irritable bowels, allergies, headaches, abnormal blood sugar, even the cramps, sensitivity to pain, and irritability of premenstrual syndrome may be caused by too shallow breathing and triggered by monthly hormone changes. So to a large degree, low oxygen is due to our unhealthy behaviors, mostly our eating and drinking habits, but some of it can be blamed on the planet's bad health as well. So like I said, pollution can kind of present an issue with lower quality or less oxygen around us. So ways to keep oxygenated. First, we can do it through diet. Raw vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds are best. Raw and fresh because oxygen is contained there. Leafy greens especially. Plants with high chlorophyll content like kale, chard, spirulina, and chlorea. Raw fresh food equals higher oxygen. Cooking speeds up the oxidation of anything we eat. So foods that don't contribute oxygen, which include animal products, processed foods, and sugar, deplete it instead. As with everything else, nutrition is key. Drinking enough high-quality water is next. When water flows in nature, in lakes and streams, it is aerated by the movement, making the oxygen it contains more stable and available to the body. As we discussed in Hydration Life Force number 2, few of us drink daily from unpolluted springs, so we need to make a little effort to get clean water structured by mineral content and movement. There's a close tie between oxygen and healthy cellular alkalinity. So we'll discuss more about that in just a second. So even keeping plants around you, like there's a reason why flowers and green plants are kind of like the go-to to send somebody when they're in the hospital and they're not feeling well. It's because their bodies can repair themselves quicker with more oxygen. So having house plants, if you can't get outside as much, if you work indoors, have a plant on your desk. It's just really important to have that natural oxygen around you as much as possible. And finally, we can just breathe more and breathe better. There's a reason why meditation is suggested for overall health as well, because you sit there, you do deep breathing. You usually try to sit outside when you do it and take in the nature, right? So most of us don't fill our lungs to capacity when we inhale, thus we don't take in all the oxygen we're capable of getting. There are a number of ways to fix this. One is just to become more mindful of our breathing. Typically we take too shallow of breaths, usually from stress, filling only the top part of our lungs. For most normal activity, that's all the air we need, unfortunately. We need to focus on filling our lungs and then fully expelling their contents, which include harmful gases. So one way, we talked about losing moisture in your body through your exhalations. You also push out, toxins and stuff through your breath. So if you don't fully exhale often enough, stuff can be getting trapped in your lungs. So that's another good argument for exercise. So like I said, when you're exercising and you're having to breathe a lot deeper, and you're having to exhale more, and it's really good practice, for oxygenating your body. And that's why some people do, Darren actually does, it's 4 5s, 5, 5, 5, 5. And he inhales for 5 seconds and holds it for 5 seconds, then exhales for 5 seconds, and then holds that for 5 seconds with nothing in his lungs. And he does that for like 15 minutes every single day. And he also does really short breathing, like where he can feel it in his diaphragm. He lays flat on the floor with his knees bent and breathes in and out repetitively, and does that for, I don't know, at least 10 minutes a day, I think. But just anyway, so it's another reason to exercise. So it's not just about burning calories, it's about oxygenating your body. Higher oxygen intake is also closely associated with improved heart health. Anything that makes us breathe deeply is just good for us. So do anything possible to get lots of oxygen into your body. Don't just inhale it. Make sure you also get it from foods like fresh fruits and vegetables. The symptoms of too little oxygen in our cells show up everywhere, from fatigue to immunity problems to Alzheimer's disease. Breathe consciously. This means inhaling deeply to fill our lungs and then empty them completely. Too many people breathe shallowly, especially if you feel stressed a lot. You have to make sure you make it a priority to breathe deeply. Breathe deeply through the nose breathing deeply through the nose is also a great stress reliever, immediately calming to the body, and it's safer and cheaper than Valium. Go outdoors. The concentration of oxygen in the air is higher outdoors than indoors, so spend more time surrounded by trees and grass, which make the air cleaner and richer. Remember, oxygen is medicine. Inhale properly through your nose, which filters out the dirt, pollution, and other weirdness that would otherwise go straight into our lungs. So they say a lot of times when you're working out, or if you're hanging out outside a lot, it's recommended to breathe in your nose and out your mouth. It's because your nose, all the hairs and everything else going on in your nose, filters the air that goes into your body. So that's important to remember for breathing in through your nose. Get some exercise every day. Physical activity requires you to inhale and exhale more deeply than when you don't exercise, and it's in a more controlled way, thereby encouraging good breathing habits. Where your breath goes, you go. If it is short and rapid, the body will be stressed and tight. When it is deep and full, your body will be loose and relaxed. So breathe more and breathe better. So Darren O'Lean, you'll learn a little bit more about him in the live interview tomorrow that we post. He has basically become a superfood hunter. He became obsessed with making his own healthy snacks in the 90s, because everybody was, starting to eat granola bars and power bars and protein bars. And he was like, that's awesome to take, healthy, protein rich or, whatever food with you, but, that's too much like a candy bar. A lot of that has too much sugar and all these other ingredients that aren't healthy. So he started making his own stuff, and then it just built from there. His friends started asking him for it, and then he just kind of became obsessed with learning more about nutrition and making it accessible to people. And he started a business with a friend who was an urban supplement guy who knew a ton about nutrition, and they ended up traveling, across the world together, and they ended up getting hooked up with Isabel and Carl Deichler, who is the CEO and his wife of Beachbody, and they employed Darren to help them make Shakeology. And they said they knew how obsessed he was about only eating stuff that was super pure and super nutritious. And they said, we know it's not going to be cheap, but we don't want anything that has fillers. We don't want to use soy. We don't want to use any, unnecessary sugars, any crap. We want a shake that provides people with dense nutrition, and that's it. And so Darren helped them formulate that, and he drinks it every day himself. He drinks the vegan flavor, and you'll learn more about that. He'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow, and we'll talk about it a little bit more closer to the end of the week. But basically, he's obsessed with nutrition, so he would not be associated with anything that was not super, super healthy. So that gives me confidence in drinking it. I drink it every day for the last 5 years, and it's definitely all the stuff he talks about with the, being more oxygenated and stuff obviously is organic in there. No GMOs are used. No they do have the whey flavors, but the vegan flavors, it's all like plant-based protein and all that stuff, but it's all like tip-top nutritional wise. And I know it's been a huge part in, you know, my overall weight loss, weight maintenance, just my digestion's improved, my overall energy. I don't get sick as often. I hardly ever get sick, actually. And then I don't know, just my body is a lot healthier because it's helping me fuel my cells. And that brings me into more about superfoods. He considers himself a superfood hunter. He literally goes all over the world. His partner that was in, you know, that he was in business with, that they started their superfood company, basically, he lives in, Argentina, sorry. I was having a moment. He lives in Argentina, and so they have, you know, connections in South America and all over the world, Latin America and all over the world for, you know, just ingredients that he can get that you cannot get in the U.S. So superfoods aren't, you know, a magic pill either. Just like your diet needs variety, superfoods should just be included. Antioxidants should just be included. And they just really accelerate, like when you do eat healthy, it's like it makes it even more powerful. And you know, it helps you fill in the gaps, basically, because there's just, like we talked about in the nutrition video, there's a lot of foods that we get access to that we think are pretty healthy, but we just really don't know the nutritional value, like how long ago foods were picked or whatever else. So using, you know, something like Shakeology or just focusing on eating more superfoods helps you fill in those gaps and makes you a more healthy person, and definitely helps battle some of those chronic conditions that we were talking about due to lack of, you know, good nutrition and you know, maybe lack of hydration and oxygenation. So to know which superfoods are right for you, it's really different for everybody. The Shakeology has what's called an adaptogen herb blend in there, and there's some really, really great herbs blended in together. And adaptogen means it basically whatever your body needs at that moment that you take them. So when I drink my Shakeology today, it's that adaptogen herb blend that's in there is going to do something different for me maybe than it did yesterday. It just depends on what my body needs. So it adapts to what your body needs, what nutrients you're most deficient in. You know, it's the capacity of what those herbs can do, obviously, but it helps. You know, it just helps. So we'll talk more about that later. So I can give you a list of like all the different superfoods that I've tried that, you know, some of them are really, really good. Some of them you wouldn't expect, like blueberries are a huge one. There's lots of different fruits and veggies. Obviously, they're the most well-known superfoods, but there's also some of the nuts and seeds and stuff that are considered superfoods. Basically, they're just really, really healthy for you. They're probably packed with more nutrition in like a small serving of those than you would get in like a huge serving of anything else. Pineapple may not seem like a power food, but the enzyme in it, bromelain, is actually an anti-inflammatory. Anti-inflammatory foods are also really good for you to add in, especially if you suffer from, you know, arthritis or bloating or any other like kind of chronic pain. Getting on an anti-inflammatory, mostly foods diet, it will really help you just reduce that inflammation and feel better without medication necessarily. So there's also harmful effects that come from stress. We touched on this a little bit before, but physical, emotional, environmental, they come up again and again in this book and every time I talk to people, because stress can really do a number on your body. If you release cortisol, it can build up in your belly. So a lot of these superfoods actually help counterbalance some of the effects of stress in your body. Antidepressants are among some of the most commonly prescribed drugs today, even though science has proven how strongly nutrition influences our mental and emotional states. So focusing on food as your medicine is important because it can actually improve your mental and physical function, obviously, you know, better than most medicines can. So food is your medicine. The first thing we need to do to support our brains is eliminate refined sugars and many of the refined grains and processed foods and increase water intake. So the main things we've talked about, those are the ways to support our brains the best. It gets into a little bit more like chronic fatigue is usually due to behaviors that overstimulate the adrenal glands. So if you feel tired all the time and you know, we talked a little bit about this before, but you respond by drinking stimulants such as coffee, soda, energy drinks, which only actually make it worse. The so-called adaptogenic herb balance support and restore the body increase our resistance to stress. So that's the reason why adaptogen herbs are important, and to not reach for coffee and soda and all the, caffeine and maybe even sugar-laden stuff that we might think we need if we feel chronically fatigued. Like, I think one of the reasons why my energy level, like, I used to be that person that came home from work and sat on the couch and, like, didn't move for the rest of the night. But I'm not like that anymore. I have energy to finish my chores and to play with my kids and to do dinner and to, have time with my husband and, all the stuff that, like, I used to think I'm just not that kind of wife. I'm just not that kind of mom, I guess. But with improving my nutrition and the other things we talked about, these healthy behaviors that help our body function properly, I have insane energy. Not like jackrabbit energy all day long every day, just like better natural energy. I can get stuff done. And I want to. Also make sure you're getting enough vitamin D. It's obviously easier in the summertime when you can sit out in the sun, but you have to have time in the sun without sunblock. So just take care to not get burned, but to make sure that you get some of the vitamin D. Just checking the time. So I'm almost done, but getting some of that vitamin D from the sunlight without sunscreen is the way to let the healthy rays in, so that you can actually absorb the vitamin D that you need. If you live somewhere where you don't get a lot of sun, or if it's just really hard for you to get a lot of sun, there are vitamin D supplements, but that's in Shako too. Omega-3 fatty acids are extremely important for good health. Lots of people get theirs through fish oil, but we have to ask ourselves, what are those fish eating? Is it safer and healthier to get omega-3s from freshly ground flaxseed. So make sure that if you get flaxseed that you don't get the whole ones. If you get the whole ones, you need to grind them with a coffee bean grinder, because your body cannot absorb them. It has to be ground for you to be able to absorb. So there's also chia seeds and algae-based supplements that help with omega-3 fatty acids. So I eat a lot of flaxseed and chia seed. And you can also get them from the oil of Sasha Inca, which is a Peruvian Amazon plant, and it's in Shakeology too. So I don't have to buy all this stuff separately. I just drink it in a shake every single day. So that's pretty much all. I'm going to go into detail about superfoods right now. So just eat plenty of nutrient-dense superfoods that provide high levels of biologically beneficial compounds to help the body heal and thrive. When possible, eat food rather than some vitamin or mineral produced in a lab and turned into a pill for nutrients. It's better to get vitamin C from, say, powdered moringa tree leaves or camu, both of which are in Shakeology. This is the beauty of superfoods. They give pure, high-octane, biologically assimilative nutrition without the junk. Buy superfoods only from companies that respect the food itself, the farmer, the soil, and the source. If you read enough labels on enough brands, you'll begin to discern which firms really try to offer clean, healthy, ethically sourced product from those that treat superfood as just another item on the store shelf. You see, the marketing stuff's crazy. Like when they talk about, like, a new study comes out that shows that this superfood is so good at preventing blah, blah, blah. Then so many companies will start putting that this contains the superfood blah blah blah, or the nutrient, or fortified calcium, or whatever. Like, they'll put it on their box, to market it to people, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to even absorb what it's talking about, because it's probably in something sugary or whatever. So enjoy superfoods the way you do anything else, not some kind of weird additive to your diet. There's stuff that's delicious, like goji berries, that you can eat the way some people eat popcorn, but they happen to be, a powerful medicine as well. So we'll touch a little bit on alkalinity and protein, and then we'll be wrapping it up. So I won't go too much into alkalinity, just because I've touched on it a little bit before, and it's basically, like I said, there's a spectrum of acid to alkaline, and it's like if you look at the scale, it's like from 0 to 14, and neutral is 7 in the middle of the spectrum. And that's where most people are kind of hanging out neutral, and you're either like a little bit more on the acidic side or a little bit more on the alkaline side, and we want to be a little bit more on the alkaline side. You'll have increased aging, more chronic issues, being more sick, all that kind of stuff if you're more acidic. But if you're more alkaline, you look younger, you've got better energy, you're aging better, your body is just healthier. So we really want to learn more about being more alkaline. And why too much acidity can be harmful to us. It's an overly acidic environment suppresses enzymatic action, which, as we talked about in nutrition, it negatively affects everything in our bodies, wherever, at every level. It impairs our ability to metabolize what we eat, which in turn makes us even more acidic, creating an unhealthy cascade. Cancer cells were found to be highly acidic. The scale that measures pH, like I said, goes from 0 to 14. So neutral, neither acidic or alkaline, is 7, right in the middle. And we want to be just slightly higher than that. And it's also exponential. It's not like you're either 6 or you're 8 and you're right close to neutral. It's the higher you go up, it's like proportionally more alkaline or proportionally more, acidic or whatever, the further you get from neutral. Our lungs are part of the alkalizing mechanism. So again, it's all wrapped together. Our oxygen, our hydration, and our nutrition all play an active role in keeping our body healthy. So alkaline, it's all tied together with alkalinity. So if our tissues aren't getting enough oxygen, we may become more acidic. Even emotional turmoil plays a part, releasing stress hormones that acidify us. Unhealthy relationships and negative self-image create mental patterns that affect us as surely as any physical factors. So, like I said before, our mental health, how we talk to ourselves, how we talk about our body, how we think about our body, it may sound like hippy-dippy stuff, but it's real. When you have negative experiences or you think negatively about yourself, you're actually creating a more toxic, more acidic environment inside your body. If you have to listen to a lot of Debbie Downers, if you watch the news too much, or listen to the news too much, you can actually be causing yourself to be more acidic and toxic and unhealthy. So, the foods we eat, obviously, the more fruits and vegetables and leafy greens, more healthy foods are more alkaline, and that's the reason why they help our body be more healthy. Animal protein, on the other hand, contains the so-called strongest acids, such as uric, sulfuric, and phosphoric acid, which are not as easy to process. Water is more alkaline unless it contains anything that makes it carbonated. So like sodas and stuff, and even coffee, pretty acidic. Oxygen's alkalizing exercise. It's not necessarily obviously acidic or alkaline itself, but it has alkalizing influence. Too little sleep or too much worry can stress our cells and be acidifying. When we consume that entire stack of Oreo cookies and then beat ourselves up over it, the ill effects are compounded by our shame, creating more acidification. So this is one reason why I tell people, like, it's really important to be, better not perfect, and have that mentality so that you don't beat yourself up like when you go off plan or whatever, because that mental battle, that diet cycle that we talk about, it's just basically making yourself more unhealthy. So you have to be more positive in your mindset to have a more positive, healthy body. So there's a lot of things in our life nowadays that we have to battle as far as acidity goes. Our environment, the news, being around gasoline, all the pollution and stuff. So you just have to really just be more mindful of it and do things to combat the acidity by being more alkaline with the food you eat, and all the life forces kind of brought together. They're very intertwined. The symptoms of acidosis, which is like chronic acidity, are fatigue, lack of energy and motivation, moodiness, headaches, cramps, poor digestion, heartburn, dry skin and hair, cold hands and feet, are the same minor complaints and everyday aches and pains that people suffer stoically, thinking that it can't be helped. Just normal adult life, right? Well, it's wrong. They're not minor problems, and they're not normal. So don't accept it as normal. Know that you can change it and that you can make yourself healthier. So try to make 3/4 of your dinner plate covered by vegetables and 1/4 maximum by everything else. So I know that's a challenge, but try to eat more plants. More plants, more plants, more plants. Exercising will bring lots of oxygen into our bodies, like we said. and as well as force us to drink more water when we exercise, so it help our hydration increase, and both which help you be more alkaline. So see how it's all tied together? And all this also boosts your immune system. So eat mineral-rich plant foods, stay away from junk in order to maintain a slightly alkaline internal environment. Our bodies know how to maintain the proper acidic base balance on their own, but we can help by eating healthfully. Eat a lot of raw food every day. Cooking acidifies our food. Find ways to eliminate or at least cut down the everyday mental strife. Emotional stress also acidifies our tissues by prompting the release of cortisol and other stress responses. Surround yourself with people who inspire you and make you laugh. Speak honestly and truthfully about what's going on in your life. Quit the shame. Embrace honesty and happiness and positivity. Start paying attention not only to the food labels, but also to the ingredients in your shampoo, your body wash, your toothpaste, etc. These industrial chemicals and the preservatives and additives in our food contribute to metabolic acidosis. So when I talk about clean living, it's more than just clean eating. It's also like using more natural products, all the way from our beauty products to our cleaning products, all that stuff. So real quickly before we're done, we talk about protein being a wonderful thing, and it's got important jobs: build muscles, organs, connective tissues, repair all those that when they need it. Protein is necessary for metabolism and digestion too. It contributes to the creation of antibodies, which keep us from dying of infectious germs that surround us at all times. It helps generate energy. Protein is responsible for protective surfaces like skin, hair, and nails. Luckily, protein is easy to come by. Once we consume it, we break it down into its building blocks, the part we can use, the amino acids. There are 21 of these altogether. Our bodies can manufacture a dozen of them, which leaves 9 essential amino acids that we need to get totally from the outside sources, meaning food. All 9 of those are in Shakeology, by the way. Every day I see recommendations to eat more protein than we need. More than is good for us. It's too much for our bodies to handle. We think we're making ourselves healthy by eating so much protein, but it's having the opposite effect over time. It's actually could be making us sicker. In fact, protein is our only source of nitrogen. When we take in too much protein, we end up with too much nitrogen, more than we need. Our bodies don't store it, so we have to excrete it. The pancreas secretes enzymes to break it down, and then the kidneys turn it into urea, and the liver turns it into ammonia. It gets the job done, but these substances are as corrosive in our insides as they sound. Too much protein also puts us in danger of a buildup of toxic ketones, a condition that puts excess stress on your kidneys as they work to flush them from our bodies. The process uses up so much water that it can cause cellular dehydration, leading to even more difficulties. Habitual consumption of excess dietary protein can negatively impact kidney function. When we metabolize protein, it leaves an acidic ash behind. Excessive dietary protein from foods with high potential renal acid load adversely affects bone unless buffered by the consumption of alkali-rich foods or supplements. So if you eat too much protein and you don't eat enough alkaline foods, you're definitely going to cause yourself some issues. Mainly, it's the animal-based protein sources of protein that cause us problems. There's way more meat recommended than anybody needs nowadays. Our blood becomes visibly sludgy when we eat animal fats. He goes into a lot of detail at describing exactly what happens in our body after we eat animal proteins, and it's really kind of gross and interesting. The mere fact that our immune systems react to animal-based food should tell us that it contains something unhealthy for us. I'll say that again. The mere fact that our immune system reacts when we eat animal-based food should tell us that it contains something unhealthy for us. Every meal triggers a new bout of inflammation, which we constantly renew with every plate placed before us. At some point, it becomes a chronic condition. Our immune systems don't get a breather. Our tissues are always inflamed and extremely stressful on the body, which triggers even more negative conditions. I get into this in the nutritional stress chapter, which we're going to talk more about on Friday. So this can be scary, but researchers today are constantly finding more connections between inflammation and the signature ailments of our age: cancer, heart disease, obesity, metabolic disorder, osteoporosis, and degenerative diseases like Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, and muscular dystrophy. Can we really doubt that our protein-rich diet is a big part of what's behind these? The leaky gut is just the beginning. Plants, plants, plants. Not saying that I don't eat meat and that I'm, never going to eat meat again. It just needs to be quality meat and less of it. Meat contains at least 3 known cancer-causing agents. And testosterone levels actually rise when men have stopped eating so much meat. So even though meat is seen as this like very masculine thing to eat or whatever, like grilling and blah blah blah, like that's all kind of like become a marketing thing. And testosterone levels actually increase when men go on plant-based diets. So you also, when we talked about, how our food eats before we eat it, animals that are pumped full of, antibiotics, which there's lots of reasons to like, fatten animals up and all this stuff. Antibiotics do crazy things to animals to make them more, easily to grow bigger for, better money, whatever. Financial reasons, they pump them full of stuff. Antibiotics being one of them. And to keep them from getting sick because they're not in very good conditions as well. So then we're eating antibiotics. So then when you talk about how people are like less, their bodies are more resistant to antibiotics and stuff, like when they get sick, the antibiotics aren't really helping them. It's not just the overprescription of them. It's also because we're eating those antibiotics more often with animal products. So to be able to really benefit from antibiotics when you need them, which is very rare, you need to make sure you eat meat that doesn't have antibiotics pumped into them all the time. So really, he believes we should be eating around 1/3 of a gram of protein for every pound of body weight. So a 150-pound person should get around 50 grams a day, or a little under 2 ounces.
I can't wait to
Hey.
Hey, girl. Let me in.
All right. All right, bye.
What is this?
All right. Sorry, guys. Marley's done. So I'm going to finish up real quick, and then we're going to go. Thanks for sticking around. I know this is long, but it's got a lot of stuff. So anyway, basically our immune systems are affected by too much protein. It can affect our kidneys, most of all, as far as whatever organ is affected. All right, get no more protein than about 15% of a day's total calories from protein. We can get all the protein we need and the essential amino acids from plant sources. It's healthier for a number of reasons, chiefly because animal protein today comes with a lot of unhealthy baggage. Those vegetables and beans include many healthy nutrients and antioxidants along with the protein they contain. If you want protein from animal foods, organic range or free-range eggs are one of the healthiest sources. If you eat meat, it should be in small portions of pasture-raised, non-GMO, organic, grass-fed, in this case beef, pork, or lamb, and without the hormones and antibiotics used in factory farms. Eat only fish that is wild caught and in modest portions. Eat salads that contain a great source of plant-based fats with some nuts or seeds, or at least a dressing made with a little oil. Without fat present, we can't absorb certain nutrients. Even butter, scientists now agree, can be a healthy source of fat as long as it's from organically fed pastured cows. Steer clear of trans fats or anything labeled partially hydrogenated, which will someday be banned from all food, he believes. Cut back on the omega-6 essential fatty acids, which are commonly found in animal foods, processed foods, and junk food, and in palm and canola oils. The increase in the amount of healthy omega-3 fats in your diet. So focus on omega-3s, not omega-6, when it comes to fatty acids, because fats also, like, they have to be present for, like, for the things in your cells to, like, travel and work together. Anyway, healthy fats are very important. So we're going to talk specifically about like protein, complex carbs, and healthy fats, and like what kind of foods to eat at the end of the week. So thanks for watching. Let me know if you have questions.